Today we are going to be viewing the web development contract and also the forms that you need to make sure that you give to the client when you sign a client for new web development. This is going to be for custom web development or full web development only. We will do another webinar that goes over the free website contract. So similar to, and to start off here we'll just go over piece by piece, similar to your client information form, we're going to be asking for some basic company information. The only point on here that I want to make a note on, when you get to the contact name, contact email, and contact phone, and it's very important that we have the information for our contact within the company. We want to make sure that all correspondence goes to the correct person. For your FTP and DNS login, if this is the first website that this client has ever had, more than likely they will not have FTP or DNS. If this is a website upgrade where they're creating a new website to expand upon the current one that they have, then we want to make sure that we get that FTP and DNS login so that we have the ability to have access to everything that they currently have. The agreement is fairly basic. We go over a basic authorization that's letting them know what we're going to be doing and what they're actually contracting with us for. Domain registration, talk about if we are going to be registering a domain for the client. Every piece of these additional add-ons, so for things like domain registration, you'll see that all charges will be billed to the client in addition to the base price. So if a client wants us to register 15 domains for them, we'll register to 15 domains and we'll just send them a bill at cost. A lot of times it's better for the client to have us do the registration because since we are an internet marketing company, we do get special deals on domains. And when it talks about here, if the client has an existing domain name, that goes back to needing that FTP and DNS login information so that we can make any changes that we need to make. Training is fairly basic. If the client has a content management system, we agree to spend time on the phone with them, reviewing the content management system. Everyone that's seen content management system knows that it's pretty intuitive, so it really does not take too much time going over the CMS in order to get a good understanding of the way to use it. Going through the contract here, there's a lot of things that are pretty generic. Talks a little bit about what we're agreeing to do, what we're agreeing to do with the contract, and anything that references or Schedule A is going to reference your quote. So at the bottom of each one of these web development quotes or web development contracts, so you guys scan them and give them to the person, or you're going to bring them on site, you always want to attach to the back their web development quote. So I pulled up standard website quotes here, but you want to make sure that you attach a web development quote, no matter if it's custom or one of these standards, to the back so that there's an exact list of what we're going to be performing for the cost. So any outside reference that you see is going to be referencing the actual quote that's attached to the back of the contract. One of the big things on here is textual content. A huge issue that we have with quite a few clients is a huge delay on getting the text. The reason why we have 14 days included within the contract for the client to give us the text is just to give them a sense of urgency. In reality, we're not really going to be closing out a project and building it out if it takes them 15 or 16 days to get us a text, but we really want them to not wait 6, 7, 8 months to send us over the text because they're busy with their day-to-day tasks. We want to make sure that they're going to be actively working on this website as we're actively working on it for them as well too. Because in reality, at the end of the day, it comes back to us. Even if it takes 2 weeks to come back to us for the text, they feel like that's 2 weeks longer that we've been working on the website, and that's 2 weeks taken out of the time frame that we've given them. So we want to make sure that they feel that sense of urgency. Cross-browser compatibility means that we are going to make sure that their website works in multiple browsers. So people have different browsers like Firefox or Internet Explorer, Google Chrome. If you have Mac, you use Safari or Opera. There's a ton of different browsers out there. We want to make sure that the website works in not only just one browser, but in multiple browsers. Graphic creation talks about all of the graphics we're making for their website, so including all the design graphics and everything like that. Photography, specifically talk about stock photography and images. What we want to make sure is we make sure that they have a limit here. So we talk about if it's more than 10 images need to be attained. So if we have to buy or purchase more than 10 images, we're going to do a slight charge for each image. Not talking about a lot of money. This is all cost. but we want to make sure that we're protected, that client can ask for 100 images, which takes away everybody's profit. So we want to make sure that that we limit that. So we'll purchase 10 images. Anything over that will be $5 each, and these are stock photography. So we're talking about the iStockphoto.com, which you guys use regularly for our free websites. Those type of images. We're not talking about graphic design, which graphic design is a lot that we do within the actual website. If the customer requests, we will scan some images for them all too. Same exact thing if it's over a certain amount, so 20 images. There will be a small fee for each image that we have to scan over that. And essentially what happens is we scan an image. We're not just scanning and putting it on the website. We have to scan it and then recreate it as a graphic, which is why there's a charge over 20 images. Now, when we get into this next section here, we're talking about Java Applet, CGI, Perl, PHP, MySQL, Media Flash, pretty much sections 10 through 16. All of these are completely dependent on the client's specific outlines. When you get a question about these, does it include this, doesn't include this, make sure just to refer them back to their quote and say, look, everything, all the functionality that we talk about in your quote. So if we say we're going to create some type of CMS, we're going to do this or that, if we're going to put in video, if we're going to do this thing, any of these sections, so 11 through 16, that are required in order to do that will be automatically included in there. So they don't have to worry about paying an extra fee for that. So that's why it's very, very important to have that quote on the back of each and every one of these web development contracts. Now here's another field that you guys are going to need to fill out. So we talk about payment terms or the workflow. So this is a total development cost. So if it was a standard website without a CMS, it would be $24.99 is what you would put in that just to recognize. And then right below this you have the 50% deposit. So each web development customer has to pay 50% up front to secure the funds for us to start the development. Because essentially what we're doing is, as this development is going on, we're paying our team to do the development. If we don't have any funds up front, and say we get all the way through the website and at the end they go, you know what, I really don't feel making a website now, we would be out of that money that we've already paid. So we want to make sure that we have some security up front. So every client is going to pay 50% up front for the website. The next sections talk about making sure, talking about payment, making sure that, any additional charges, things like that, just kind of goes over some of the payment issues. Now, when we go over maintenance agreements, pretty much what maintenance is essentially, day-to-day changes on their website. So if they want to change 25 years to 26 years, as a rule, we do not do any free maintenance for any clients. We do not have any current maintenance contract. If it is something that is completely dependent, if we have to have a maintenance contract in order to get a web client, we may consider it, but it's not something that we really like doing. We'd rather do it on a flat hourly basis, which is, again, an incentive for these people to move into the content management system websites, because they can do these tiny changes on their own and they don't have to pay an hourly fee for it. If they're not a search engine optimization or a monthly client for our social media, it will be $75 an hour for the changes. If they are an SEO or social media client, it'll be $50 an hour. Pretty much what we're talking about here on section 18, the third party or client modification. Just like in our SEO contracts, we're not responsible if the client screws up the website. We're going to come back in and we're going to fix it, or we're going to have to charge them for it. Upon the client's request, we will burn a copy of their site to the CD. As with everything that we do, we make it search engine friendly. This is not saying that we're going to be doing link building. It's not saying that we're going to be doing keyword research, that we're going to be doing any services included within our SEO contracts. It's just that the website will be search engine friendly. So if they choose to do search engine optimization, it'll be something very easy to add on at that point. Now, any additional expenses. So these are things that could come up during the development. So we talked about the possibility of them moving extra images, of scanning extra things, of software that we may have to purchase if they want it. So if a client wants to do a payment gateway on a website, which payment gateway is where they could process credit cards, we would have to purchase software for that, and there would be a monthly fee for that third-party company in order to process credit cards. All of those expenses are on the client. Those cannot be anticipated at the start of the project. We can give them a rough estimate, and as you'll see with most of our custom quotes, we give them an estimate of the areas that are going to have a fee, but we never know exactly what it will be. We can definitely give them a ballpark on it. But we want to make sure that that they know that, if they have a pay gateway, I'm not going to be paying the $25 a month for them to have their payment gateway. Those bills will be, sent over to them. It will all be signed up under their name. Okay, one of the big things is that we want to make sure when we're working on a client's website that every piece of information is not infringing on a copyright or a trademark. So we want to make sure that the client understands that we're not responsible for the information that they send us. We're not going to vet out their content. If they copy content from somebody else's website, it is not our responsibility. So essentially what this is doing is this is releasing from the liability of the copyrights and trademarks. Again, going back to releasing liability in the limited liability section. And in indemnification, again, this is more liability release. Because it's such an area where if we're doing graphics work and things like that, but depending on the client for the content has the ability to steal content, to steal photos, and we want to make sure that our company is not responsible for that. Everything after we finish the website, this website is completely 100% owned by the client. So there's, we're not holding it at all. They can choose to host it with us. They can choose to host it with another company. All of that's completely okay, but all ownership gets transferred over to the website or over to the client. And we want to make sure on each and every one of our websites, just with search engine optimization, we have the ability to put a design credit at the bottom. So either Internet Marketing by National PC Solutions if they're a SEO client. If they're not, it'll say Web Design by National PC Solutions. Now, the non-disclosure is more of a protection for the client. So essentially what we're telling them that we're not going to disclose any information about the project to any other company. A lot of the information that we receive is very sensitive. A lot of the projects are new ideas and new types of projects. So we want to make sure that the client understands that we will hold that true, and we will make sure that their information is not passed along to anyone else. Completion date is a very, very important category. It's one sentence, but it means quite a bit. The big thing with our completion date, at the start of every project, we give a quote, a time frame quote. But if you have worked with clients on web development, know that that quote can change drastically very quickly. It is very, very important to have good and fast communication with your clients during a web development process. Like I was mentioning earlier, if it takes 2 weeks to get a piece of feedback that we need in order to move forward, that's 2 weeks lost that we could be working on coding and that we could be working on the website. So it's very, very, very important that there is good communication. Our quotes are 100% dependent on the client communication. So they need to understand that if we quote 2 months and a month and a half of that is spent waiting on them, we're not going to be able to finish in 2 months. And you'll see a client will, for example, not going to name names, but we had a client the other day who we rushed through web development for him. Took us 4 weeks for him to send us the revisions, and then he asked us if we had the revisions, and it was over 50 pages of revisions completed within a couple days. Clients always are going to feel that things can be done very quickly, or always going to feel that that 4 weeks is 4 extra development. They didn't recognize the fact that that was 4 weeks that they added on to that website by waiting to give us the revisions. So you just need to make sure that you hold true, you give them a quote, and if it takes them a long time to get back, what you want to do is be straightforward with them and say, hey, look, since these phases have taken a little bit longer than expected, this quote will go, it will extend out, but we're, as always, and with each and every client, we work as hard and as fast as we possibly can to make sure their project gets done. Essentially, we want these projects completed because we want to move them into SEO. So it's in our benefit, it's in everybody's benefit to get it completed as fast as possible, and that can only happen if there's extremely good communication. For the cancellation section on the contract, essentially what you're looking at is that 50% deposit that they give us up front will be retained if they cancel out the contract. That's for us to pay our web developers. They need to be paid, so that money goes directly to them. And the entire understanding, just again another piece of the liability for the contract. So at the bottom, you both sign, and remember that the last page should always be the standard web quote or whatever, the custom or standard web quote. Make sure that there is a web development quote at the back of that contract. If you scan it in and send it to the client, just scan it all together and send it over to them. Now, after you have the client sign this paperwork, there's 2 things they're going to want to give them. The first is a website questionnaire. It's very, very, very important, and we miss this quite often. It's very, very important that the client fills out this website questionnaire thoroughly. This is the information that we use to create the initial mock. If we do not have this information, we are 100% guessing at what they want, which means our mocking process will take longer and it'll extend the length of the cycle for us to build a website. So Essentially, it looks a little overwhelming when you first give it to them, but within 15 to 30 minutes, they can have this entire sheet filled out, and we have a great idea of what they're going for and how to move forward. So you need to give that to them, have them fill it out. When it's done, upload that into the software so that we have a copy of that. And the second thing you want to give them is for them to keep. This is the web development steps or checklist. And pretty much what this does is this shows them what we're going to be doing step by step by step by step as we move through the development process. This gives them a good idea of what to expect next. So after they choose a package, they need to do a contract, fill out the website questionnaire, and then we're going to create mocks for them. So you'll see client, 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 and then National PC Solutions will create the first round of mocks. They'll review the mocks, and they'll create a second, and they'll review the second round of mocks. If they approve them, then we move on from there, and we take those image mocks and we turn them into web mocks. And the client during that time provides us with content. We take that content, we insert it, we do a final review altogether. If the client has revisions, we do revisions, we purchase their domain, and we post the website live. So it's very, very, very straightforward the way that this is laid out, which is on purpose so that the client has this and they know what step they're on and they know what to expect coming up next. You'll notice that we make this note multiple times that we want our clients to be working on their content, gathering all their text and images. Throughout the process, that communication can move very, very, very quickly. So just remember, you have a client that's ready to do a website. You fill out the website questionnaire. You attach your quote to the back of the questionnaire. Once that's filled out, you fill out the contract. You attach your quote to the back of the contract. Once that's filled out, you leave them two papers, or two stacks of papers. One is going to be your website questionnaire that they need to fill out and send back to you. We need that in just a couple days, so it needs to be very quick. And the second one is the web development steps for them to keep, so that they know what step and what piece they're at on the process. All of these files, as always, available in the software, so you guys can download them and go into the cloud. Thank you.